I've seen a lot of mixed reviews when it comes to Avatar The Last Airbender Season 2 of the live action. So I'm here to answer the question, is this show worth watching? Welcome back, everyone. We're here today to talk about Avatar The Last Airbender Season 2. Like I said, we are talking about the live action, and I have a lot of thoughts on this show. But before we get into it, I want to know, as I assume all of us here are probably Avatar fans in some respect, what is your favorite moment from Avatar? Whether that's the animated series, the live action, the comics, let me know down in the comments below and let's celebrate our love of this amazing franchise. So, to start off, I kind of just want to address the elephant in the room. And that is, I think we need to acknowledge that this is a series that, because we have such a beloved animated series, there are going to be a lot of comparisons. And myself as well, I have watched the animated series in full. I'm a big fan of it. And when it comes to the live action, I think there's a lot of high expectations. As those of us that are fans, we really love the animated show. So we are going to be looking at what they changed and how does that work. And I think even changing things at times can feel wrong. There's also something to be gained, though, when we make changes to a series like this, and that is we can go back with the extra insight of where the story goes and plant some seeds a little bit earlier so that those things can grow in maybe a little bit of a different way. So there are pros and cons, I think, to doing the show again and not just doing it as it was already done, but looking at the story and seeing what you can add. And of course, in that case, what you're going to take away. And the other thing with this show is that it is 9 episodes, 9-hour-long episodes, which is, of course, different framing for the season than the animated series. However, it is following sort of the pacing that we got for season 1 of the live action. So we're going to be talking about some of these comparisons and where I think there are things that kind of work and where I think there are things that don't work as well. But I am excited to get into this with you. I think let's start off with some of the new stuff that was added in. Let's talk about Toph, who obviously is not new to Avatar The Last Airbender, is a character that appears in the animated series, but is new to our cast. Toph is played by Miyako, and I personally think that Miyako does such a great job with Toph's representation here in the show. The characterization does feel pretty on point to me for Toph Beifong. They did add some interesting stuff with the Beifongs and them making weapons for the Fire Nation, but maybe not knowing that they were doing that. I don't know if I believe Toph's mom when she says that. So that was a weird addition in this show that I am still trying to figure out how I feel about it. I think overall, I don't think it's necessary because Toph's parents already, if you get to know them at all in this, they don't come across as good people. And it's not, they don't have to be working with the Fire Nation to be bad people. They can just be people that do not know how to raise their daughter and who don't see her or listen to her or value the strengths that she has. And I think that is the main thing with the Beifongs that I enjoyed from the animated show, that conflict between Toph and her parents. And when we focus on that, I think the show does really well. I think giving Toph, for example, the opportunity to say to her mom before she leaves, this is who I am, and I need you to see me and respect me for who I am. And then seeing that response of, no, you have to come home with me, like I can't accept this. But giving Toph the agency to kind of call that out, I really liked that they did that with the show. And I thought that really worked. So there's pros and cons again, even with what we're doing with Toph in this and with her family. But the characterization for me worked quite well. And I loved getting to see her join the team again in this and just seeing all of them come together and all of their dynamics. I thought it was a good time. Of course, we're also adding some stuff to Azula this season. We're adding, dare I say, a bit of humanity to Azula. a little different, I think, than what the animated show does with her, where she's quite monstrous throughout. But it does make sense to me because her and Zuko did both lose their mom. And I think some of the stuff they're taking is actually from the comics. So they're taking some inspiration from some of the stuff that we see in the comics with these characters. And I think it works here. I actually really like Azula offering, Zuko that opportunity near the end of season 2 to work with her as her brother and using their mom as this way to kind of create a bridge between the two of them. I think it makes a little bit more sense because with where Zuko is near the end of season 2, he's already at a place where he really has made that choice to turn over a new leaf, to be a better person. He's almost fully Team Avatar when Katara offers to heal him. So the offering of let's do this as siblings in the memory, in the spirit of our mother who told us to stick together. I want to do that with you. And I do want to appeal to that, even though I do see you as weaker than me or below me. I think the only thing that I would have loved a little bit more of is a little bit more of the hints of that coming through for Azula before we led up to that moment, because it does feel like a big shift. But I do think they established some of it with the flashbacks in the season. So it kind of works. However, Zuko and Iroh are still my favorite parts of the show. I mean, I said it last season. I'm going to say it again. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee and Dallas Liu do such an amazing job with both of these characters for me. And their scenes together are always the highlight for me of watching the live action because it's so emotional, and just seeing them come closer together as they've been on this journey and struggled with different perspectives. I have absolutely adored it. And that is really the highlight of the show for me watching. I'm always just waiting for more Zuko and more Iroh moments. And this season really delivered on that. So thank you. I think the crazy thing about Avatar is the strengths and the weaknesses of the show kind of come from the same thing. And that is, we get this mishmash of characters and moments that are different than the animated series, but that are still honoring all of the moments that happen. So we still hit the beats, but sometimes we get to them in different ways. And I think the heart and the souls of the characters are still maintained. I still feel like that core is there, but when they get to certain moments, the way that we get there are times where I feel like it works better or it works worse than the animated version. Either way, it's definitely different. It's definitely different. I think I've already kind of talked about some of the things that work. So let me just kind of mention maybe a few things that didn't work as well for me. I loved everything in episode 2 until we got to the end. The end of episode 2, where everyone conveniently happens to be in the same village as Zuko. So instead of that being more of Zuko's story, it really becomes everyone together all wrapped up, and then Zuko making that choice to go after the Avatar. I understand he's still not there yet, but I thought that felt a little convenient and messy that everyone just happens to be in the same place at the same time. And most of my issues with the show are these convenient things that I'm like, how does that work? And I don't know if it's ever properly showcased or explained in the show, including at the end when they're sneaking into the palace in the jars. I just don't believe that those characters fit in those jars. I know that there's probably only like this much liquid at the top just to have them be disguised, but it wasn't really believable. That's all I'm gonna say. So there are times when we change things up a little bit where it works, and times where it just doesn't, in my opinion. Sometimes Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action, has a darker feel to it, and I think I talked about this a little bit in season 1. And the one thing that I am a little sad about with the live action is I do think we miss out on a little bit of the whimsy of the animated series, but the whimsy is still there if you look for it. And I think with people in place of animated characters, it is hard to fully keep the whimsy alive, because when you think about what's actually happening in the story, it is a really dark story. It's all of these kids who are being thrown into these crazy predicaments where they are wrapped up in a war that's happening around them and they just can't escape it. And they're trying to do everything in their power to save people, but they are ultimately just kids. Now, granted, the kids did age up in season 2, and I have seen some people complaining about that. I think it's kind of inevitable. It's the part of filming. It takes time for them to make the show, and I didn't really mind it that much. I think they just kind of rolled with it, and even in the beginning, they kind of acknowledge, that people are looking a little older, and it's fine. To me, it's fine. These are real people, and they will age with time. And in season 3, they're gonna look even older, so it'll be what it'll be. We also spend a lot of time in Ba Sing Se, and speaking of the production of the show, I thought they did a good job with capturing Ba Sing Se and showing us sort of different areas of it. I don't think that I had any issues really with what they did, other than we're in Ba Sing Se for, I think, longer than the animated show, but the animated show is more episodes. There's definitely more going on, and there's more pieces now at play than we have when we go there in the animated show. Like, we have the mechanist who's here, who is not here, but I like him, so I don't mind that. Appa doesn't get taken until later on, so we do make some changes, and we do spend, I think, overall, more time there, especially in regards to just how much watch time we have in this season. The costumes still look amazing to me. I think the costumes in this show are so well done, and that is something that I think they excel at. The effects also look pretty good for the most part. I think the serpent was probably the best thing I saw in the show, other than I think Appa always looks really good, and I think they spent a lot of time and money as well on the little sky bisons, even though it's a shorter sequence, just like all of the sky bisons coming to the sky temple and that flashback of Aang meeting Appa. So I think that's where most of our animation budget went. The bending still looks great to me. I really like all of the bending in it. Other than, I think there are a few moments in the final fight where it looks a little rough, like Azula flying towards Aang with her blue fire jets. That looked a little rough to me. Aang's crystal armor looked a little rough to me, but it still is capturing what we see. I mean, Aang's crystal armor is in the show, and they did it, and it looked good enough. I think they just had to pick and choose where they spend the budget for the digital effects. Something that I have noticed that actually Duck mentioned to me that I wanted to bring up is that the overall look of the show kind of has a sheen to it. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like a filter or something they add in post to kind of smooth things a little bit. And once he brought it up, I was like, I kind of can't stop seeing it. And it doesn't bother me, but it is weird that I think all of the shows that Netflix has done that have been these live action adaptations, like Cowboy Bebop or Avatar: The Last Airbender or One Piece, which are based on animated series and in some cases also manga, I think is a little weird. It's just a little weird that there's that sheen that kind of carries through. Maybe One Piece it's not as noticeable because there's a lot of light in that show, and something that does bother me a little bit about Avatar is that it is dark, not just in tone, sometimes a little too much, but it's also dark in terms of visually. Like when we film nights, could we just get a little bit more brightness in the frame, please? Going back and watching some classic films recently, I miss when we used to just film night and illuminate it, because the people that are watching the movie need to be able to see. And when you're looking around in the nighttime, you don't think, oh my gosh, I can't really see. Like, it's not usually that dark. There's lighting and stuff around these people. There's lamps. Why don't we have more light in the frame? Overall, season 2 made me want to revisit the animated show, to go back and look at the moments and do the comparison. And I think that's really fun. And it also made me want to check out the comics, because I've never read the comics. I have heard about them, and I remember a few times that they've had comics that have been announced that I've been curious and wanted to read them, but I just was busy reading other things at the time. So I might go back and read some of those, because yeah, I think there's some cool stuff to be explored in there. It's interesting because it also makes me think about how, with the comparisons that we're making to the animated version, obviously I can't help but make those comparisons because I've already seen the animated version, but I wonder how much this show makes sense if you haven't, because there's also little flourishes, music that I pick up on, and added layers to characters' relationships that I can appreciate because I know the animated version and I already know where these characters go. And so I can appreciate these little things they're adding in. But I wonder if that still works if you haven't seen the animated version. And I am happy to kind of say that I do know someone who's never seen the animated and watched this, and they said for them, they loved it. They had a great time with it. So I'm glad that at least for some people that have never seen the animated, this is still working. I think it is important for us to consider as those people that are fans of the animated series when we are a little bit too attached to the story we already have. Because if they just did the story one for one, shot for shot again, I think people would have the criticism of, why do it if you're not going to add anything to it? Why just do the exact same thing? We already have that. What a waste of time. And there's always going to be that sentiment with a live action adaptation, to be honest. I think anytime someone does it, we're like, kind of like, but why though? Like the original exists. But what I love is that this show in the live action gets to be brought to a whole new audience. And for some people, this might be their first experience, and it may even make them want to go back and watch the animated series. Or I know people that also don't really watch animated shows, and for them, this might be their only way of getting into the story of Avatar because they only watch live action. So I think it is cool to allow Avatar to expand the fandom and reach new people. And I think it's just important for us to keep in mind when sometimes we have our nostalgia glasses on and to just take a look at what we're getting offered. Because there is some really beautiful stuff here, and not all of it works. No, it's not a perfect season. Like season 1, it's kind of a mixed bag, but I do think they did a better job at least than season 1 and made improvements. And I'm curious to see what we'll get in season 3, because season 3 is quite a big season, and there's a lot of moments that I love from book 3. So we'll see how it goes. That's all I have to say about this one. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. Let me know what you thought of season 2 down in the comments below. I'll see you down there. And until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye. And if you love seeing me review shows like this, you can check out more of that over here. There's a lot of shows going on right now. Seriously.